50 interesting and fun facts about Canada. Looking for some fun and interesting facts about Canada? 1. Canada is the second biggest country in the world, after Russia. It's also the biggest country in the Western Hemisphere, covering 9,984,670 square kilometers, which makes Canada bigger than the entire European Union. 2. Canada is spread out over 10 provinces and 3 territories. The 10 provinces are Alberta, capital, Edmonton; British Columbia, capital, Victoria; Manitoba, capital, Winnipeg; New Brunswick, capital, Fredericton; Newfoundland and Labrador, capital, St. John's; Nova Scotia, capital, Halifax; Ontario, capital, Toronto; Prince Edward Island, capital, Charlottetown; Quebec, capital, Quebec City; Saskatchewan, capital, Regina. The 3 territories are Northwest Territories, capital, Yellowknife; Nunavut, capital, Iqaluit; and Yukon, capital, Whitehorse. The difference between a province and a territory is that provinces receive power and authority from the 1867 Constitution Act, whereas territories have power delegated by the Parliament of Canada. Therefore, territories have a little less power than provinces, don't have their own provincial governments, and cannot vote on changes to the Constitution. 3. 90% of Canadians live less than 200 kilometers from the border with the United States. Despite being one of the largest nations on Earth by landmass, the vast majority of the 37 million Canadians live in the south of the country, close to the country's nearest neighbor. 4. Canada's motto is, "From sea to sea." Who knew that countries have mottos? Considering that Canada touches the Pacific, the Arctic, and the Atlantic Oceans, it's no wonder that these are the words that resonate most with the nation. 5. Canadians are big beer drinkers. Combined, the nation drinks more than 22,700,000 hectoliters of beer annually. This means the average Canadian drinks 79 liters every year. In the Yukon, the average rises to 128 liters every year. 6. Canada has the most donut shops in the world. There are more donut shops in Canada per capita than anywhere else on Earth. 7. Canada's greatest theft was of maple syrup. Between 2011 and 2012, 3,000 tons of maple syrup was stolen in Quebec, with a total value of $18.7 million. This made the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist the most valuable theft in the country's history. 8. The Yukon's sourdough cocktail has a real human toe in it. In the Yukon's Dawson City, you can find the unique sourdough cocktail, the ingredients of which include whiskey and a real human toe. The first toe belonged to a miner, who had his toe amputated in 1920 and kept it in a jar, preserved in alcohol. In 1973, the jar was discovered, taken to the sourdough saloon, and the liquid poured into the glasses of those who were brave enough to drink it. Since the original, 7 more toes have been donated to the bar, though 3 have been swallowed whole with the drink, 2 by accident, 1 on purpose. The rule of the Sourdough Cocktail Club is, you can drink it fast, you can drink it slowly, but the lips have got to touch the toe. 9. Canadians love poutine. The traditional story is that poutine was invented by a Canadian. It originated in the 1950s in Warwick, Quebec, when a trucker asked Fernand Lachance to add cheese curds to his fries. Poutine is Quebec slang for a mess. 10. Canadians eat the most mac and cheese in the world. In particular, Kraft's macaroni and cheese has been nicknamed Canada's national dish, sorry, poutine. Often, Canucks will simply call it Kraft Dinner, or KD. 11. The Hawaiian pizza was actually invented by a Canadian. The winning, and controversial, combination of cheese, pineapple, and ham was concocted by Greek-Canadian Sam Panopoulos from Ontario, who was inspired by the sweet and savory flavors of Chinese cuisine. 12. Canada is the most educated country in the world. 56% of Canada's population have a degree or other higher qualification. That's 6% more than the country in second place, Japan. Canada also has an impressive literacy rate of 99%. 13. Canada's Aboriginal population includes the Métis, Inuit, and First Nations people. Around 1,673,780 Canadians identify as Aboriginal, which is about 4.9% of the country's population. This can be broken down to 977,230 First Nations, 587,545 Métis, and 65,025 Inuit. 14. Vikings were the first explorers to reach Canada from Europe. Tools found in caves on the Bluefish River in northern Yukon reveal that Canada was inhabited as early as 20,000 years ago. However, the first recorded explorers from Europe were Vikings, who arrived around 1000 AD. Famous Italian explorer John Cabot didn't reach Canada until 1497. 15. The name, Canada, means settlement or village. The name Canada comes from the word Kanata, which means settlement or village, in the language of the indigenous St. Lawrence Iroquoians. 16. Canada is home to the longest coastline in the world. The coastline of Canada stretches 202,080 kilometers. If you attempted to walk the whole length, averaging 12 miles a day, it would take more than 30 years to complete the task. 17. 3 of Canada's islands rank in the top 10 largest islands in the world. The islands are Baffin Island, 5th place 507,451 square kilometers. Victoria Island, 8th place 217,291 square kilometers. Ellesmere Island, 10th place 196,236 square kilometers. 18. Canada is home to more than half of the planet's lakes. Canada has a whopping 3 million lakes in total, and 563 lakes are larger than 100 square kilometers, which is bigger than most countries. Canada's largest lakes are Lake Huron in Ontario, Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories, Lake Superior also in Ontario, and Lake Winnipeg in Manitoba. It may come as no surprise then that Canada houses 20% of the world's freshwater. 19. Canada is the world leader for uranium mining. Uranium is a naturally occurring metallic element found in the Earth's crust, which provides nuclear fuel used to generate electricity at nuclear power plants. 20. Half of Canada is forest. And Canada's forest makes up 10% of the total forest on the planet. No wonder timber is one of Canada's biggest exports. 21. Canada and the US share the world's longest border. The international border stretches for 8,891 kilometers. 22. 90% of Canada is uninhabited. Because of this low population density, there are only 3 people living per square kilometer of Canada. Also, Canada is very welcoming to immigrants, and almost half of the people living in Canada were born in another country. Canada's most common surnames are Smith, Lee, Wong, and Chan. 23. Calgary's Chinooks are a weather phenomenon. The Chinooks are warm, dry winds that rise in temperature as they drop down eastern slopes. This means that you can be suddenly taken aback by a 10-degree rise in temperature in just minutes. According to native legends, the Chinooks are messages sent to warn people. The word Chinook means snow eater, which is also the name for a native community that lives on the north of the Columbia River, where the winds originate. 24. Canada's national parks are bigger than some countries. Nahana National Park Reserve covers an incredible 30,050 square kilometers, which makes this national park larger than countries such as Rwanda and Israel. Alberta's Wood Buffalo National Park is even bigger, with a size of 44,807 square kilometers, which makes it larger than the Netherlands and Taiwan. 25. Areas of Canada are missing gravity. Large parts of Canada around the Hudson Bay area have lower gravity than other parts of the world. Theories as to why this is the case include the melting of the Laurentide ice sheet, which left a deep indentation in the Earth, or the convection of magma under the planet's surface dragging continental plates down, which decreases both mass and gravity. 26. Canada has the world's largest population of wild bears. Canada is the perfect habitat for its 15,000 polar bears, 50% of the world's polar bears live in Nunavut, as well as other species, such as black bears, Kermode bears, and grizzly bears. 27. Canada's national animal is the beaver. Although the bear or the moose might seem more appropriate, Canada's official national animal is the beaver. This is due to the historic beaver fur trade, which helped cement Canada's place in the colonial economy. 28. Canada has its own version of the Loch Ness Monster. The story goes that Ogopogo, a dragon or snake-like monster, inhabits Okanagan Lake in British Columbia. The lake monster was allegedly first seen by First Nations people in the 19th century, but this was likely misinterpreted as the spirit of the lake, rather than a physical animal. 29. Canada's national sports are hockey and lacrosse. Hockey, or ice hockey, is the national winter sport of Canada, whilst lacrosse is the national summer sport. Modern ice hockey dates back to 1875, when the first indoor ice hockey game took place in Montreal, whereas lacrosse is a First Nations game. 30. You can send a letter to Santa Claus's Canada address and get a reply. If you're looking to get in contact with Santa, you can send a letter to the North Pole, H0HOHO, Canada. No matter which language you write in, you're guaranteed a response.